Hi, this is Linda Berardi. For today's PCC Excellence segment, I want to talk about personal resilience. We've been learning together about how to apply these principles of presencing, of relationship building, and strength spotting, these philosophical ideals, if you will, into practice in our work with the people served at RBHA, in our work with each other as colleagues. And now I want to explore how we can apply these principles to our own life for personal resilience. So if we take this notion of presence, of really getting still and being aware of our own life and of being with ourselves only and giving ourselves that gift of presence, which we often don't do because we're so busy and we're so pressed and we have so much going on in our monkey mind of things that we have to do. If we can take a moment and be still and to reflect upon what we most appreciate in our lives, of what is working well, of what gives life to us, as we explore this notion of appreciative inquiry into our own personal lives, of looking at and examining and celebrating what is working rather than what is not working, then we have that balance working to improve the positive ratio to the negative that we've been talking about. This 3-to-1 ratio of maintaining positivity to negative events, of more positives and less negatives. So if we're challenged, if we're stressed, if we're overworked, we're overwrought, especially during the holidays, it is ever more important to get present and to reflect upon the things that are working in our lives. And one way to do this is to keep a gratitude journal, something very simple. Every day, write down 3 things that you're grateful for. So this attitude of gratitude actually shifts our brain chemistry. It actually helps us to think more broadly, to be more creative. It helps us to boost our own immune system, which is part of personal resilience. And it helps us, if we focus on what is working within us, to help others to focus on the same in their lives. So get a journal. It's holiday time, so put first on your list a journal for yourself, something that is attractive to you, that is something you can bring along with you easily, and something that you can jot down these 3 things a day that you are grateful for. I keep not a journal, but a jar. So another alternative would be to keep this gratitude jar by your desk and to fill it up with a year's worth of gratitude sayings and things that you remember about what is important to you each day. And I confess I don't do it every day, and yet when I do take the time to reflect on what I'm grateful for, on what is life-giving and what is of value in my life in a moment that I take that time, it really helps me get through the day, and it helps me to stay present on what is most important to me as I work towards what is important for me to do. So this notion that we've been talking about of balancing important to with important for, of balancing what I appreciate and what is life-giving and what is positive in my life with what may be challenging, and to keep that ratio high, that is a step towards personal resilience. So let's look at relationships and relationship building skills as they apply to us personally, as people, as professionals, and the importance of relationships, we know, is critical to person-centered excellence with the people we serve. The relationships with one another as colleagues and collaboration are as effective as those relationships are. That determines the output or the outcome of the collaboration, does it not? To have positive working relationships with each other, positive working relationship with the people you serve. And in addition, in our own lives, taking the time to look at the relationships that help us thrive, that we're connected to. We're built for connection. Human beings are built for connection. We're built for relationship. So we don't often take the time mindfully to reflect on our relationships, to look at the relationships that support our lives, and look at the meaning of those relationships to us and to our thriving, and also the attention that we're giving to those relationships. Because, again, sometimes we're stretched in the relationships that we have, that we value. And when we're out of balance in serving the relationships that are meaningful to us, whether it be out of balance with the people in our family, or out of balance with our coworkers, out of balance with the people in our community, we want to refocus or rebalance those relationships so that they do support our lives, they do support our personal resilience. So what I do with leaders, and one of the activities that I do, is I have leaders to look at the relationships in their life, recognizing that leadership is about developing and maintaining relationships. So I have this little grid or chart that I do, not a grid, it's really a circle, of relationships in 2 dimensions. So the first dimension is meaning, and the second dimension is attention. So the meaningful relationships in somebody's life could be things such as family and spouse and supervisor and friends and professional network and colleagues and neighbors and church people. So those can be some of the relationship groups that are meaningful to an individual. And then comes the attention to those meaningful relationships dimension, which is a Likert scale here, from 1 being least attention to most attention. So how much attention am I giving to my family? How much attention and investment are you giving in your relationship with your supervisor, and vice versa? And how much attention are you giving, and vice versa, to your friends? So if you look at what you're responsible for in these meaningful relationships as a first order of business, then you're able to assess, how can I shift my energy and my attention so that I'm satisfied with the attention that I'm giving to these meaningful relationships in my life. So it's an activity that you can do for yourself by putting yourself in the center, and on the external part of the circle, labeling the relationships that are important to you, and then reflecting on, how invested am I in these relationships? So if they're working or they're not working, let's look first at, how am I cultivating and nourishing the relationships that are meaningful to me? How much attention am I giving those? And how might I adjust my energy and attention to bring those relationships that are so meaningful to my thriving and my resilience into balance? And the third dimension of strength spotting, of looking for strengths in your life, looking for strengths in who you uniquely are and what you can contribute to your work and to your life, is an activity that also is proven by science, that when we can work from our strengths, we are more engaged in our work. When we can apply our strength in our life, in our work, we are more inclined to feel thriving, to feel accomplishments, to be proud of what we contribute. So one of the things that you can do is to take a strength survey, to take a free survey, and there is one that I recommend that I've used myself, and it's called the VIA Character Strengths. And if you go to VIA www.viacharacter.org, you can take a free survey and get this idea of strength spotting into your own life by taking the survey, looking at your top 5 strengths, and reflecting on those strengths and how they show up in your life. And then asking the question of, how can I use these strengths more often in my life? Because the more that you use your strengths, the more that you apply them in your work or in your life, the more successful you feel, the more successful you are, the more mastery you have over your work and or in your life. So do the strength survey, and here's the website again for the VIA Character Strength, viacharacter.org. Reflect on your top 5 strengths. So, for example, they may be things such as creativity, humor, perseverance, fairness, and honesty. And there are definitions on the website. They give you the definitions when you take the test. And then ask yourself, where does creativity show up in my life, in my work? Where do I use humor? And how can I use it more? Because when you're living your strengths, when they're evident in your life, you feel better about what you're doing. You feel more valued and valuable in what you're doing. And the same can be applied to how you work together with your team. Learn each other's strengths. Learn each other's strengths. But first, consider your own and apply those forward. So those are 3 ways: a gratitude journal, looking at your relationships in terms of the meaning of those relationships and the attention you're giving those meaningful relationships. And consider taking a strength survey and looking at the strengths that you uniquely possess as your top 5 and how they show up in your life and how they show up in your work. And so share your discovery with a colleague, with a friend, and with a family member. And you're on the road to personal resilience. This has been your PCC Excellence segment. I wish you the best and see you soon. Bye-bye.